Welcome to the Happiness Jungle TV show. I am your guest host, CamiBaker.com, and today's guest is very special because we just met. And I always find it fascinating. I like to share with our audience where and how I meet people, because part of what I do is networking and relationship building. And I had a guest today that didn't put it on their calendar, so I reached out to the world, and Heidi.
Here I am. Well, thank you for having me. It's nice when things align, and I appreciate being here.
Well, and I love how things line up too. And since I'm always interviewing and mingling with business owners and entrepreneurs and coaches and speakers, you fit right in. So tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Cami. So I started my business about 2 years ago, and I'm a marketer by trade, also a business strategist and coach. And what I really do, what sums it up, is that I help people do marketing differently. So I help business leaders, could be CEOs, folks that have started a business, marketing teams, individual marketers, people who are going out on their own and starting their own business. I help them do marketing differently, and that means different things for different people.
I love this conversation. We could talk about this for the whole weekend. When you say do marketing differently.
Sure.
Let's start out with defining what marketing is and the difference between sales and marketing and business development. Good friend of mine who's been on the show, Katie Cook, she's awesome at purposeful networking. And she was just telling me last week that her sales and marketing people that are out in the field, she's had all of their business cards changed to business development.
Interesting.
So what do you think is the difference?
Well, I always like to call it smarketing. So combined. Now in my world, we look at marketing as marketing to businesses, and often we call that B2B marketing, business to business marketing, or B2C marketing, marketing to consumers. I'm really a B2B marketer at heart. So I love marketing software, marketing technologies, marketing professional services. And the worlds that I come from, there are driven sales teams and there are driven marketing teams, and really the best, most highly functional ones are working together because you have to. And marketing is inherently sales. A lot of what sales does is marketing. They're out there presenting a pitch, presenting a message, guiding conversations a certain way.
You can't have one without the other.
You can't have one without the other. And so I think that's a really relevant point that you hit on, because more and more organizations are going that direction. And I think for the business leaders that are out there, if you do have sales and marketing teams, that's something to keep in mind. If they're siloed right now, if they're separate, you may want to think about forming a smarketing organization. But that's interesting that they term themselves business development.
Do you see a difference in marketing and business development?
If I look at the terms the way I think they're traditionally defined, I've always defined business development as more of a sales type role. But I also think if you think about it differently, like I like to, and you take a different spin on it, I can actually see how business development people could have a marketing angle to them. So I could see both sides of it. You're introducing something to me that I probably hadn't thought about as much until today, to be honest.
She introduced it, and it's funny, you've business development, use those words all the time, marketing, but it was just put to me in a different way, and now I'm starting to rethink how I explain what I do. So what would you say your definition of marketing is? Because we're going to teach people how you help them do marketing differently.
Right.
So what is marketing to start off with?
Oh my goodness, I really think marketing is solving problems and asking the right questions to solve those problems. And that's what I love doing it as an entrepreneur and a consultant and a coach. And then it's crafting a story. Some marketers feel like calling marketing storytelling is cliche, and yet if you ask a lot of marketers what marketing is, they say it's crafting and telling a story and delivering a story in a way that it resonates with the audience appropriately. And if you aren't doing marketing correctly, your story might be falling flat. There might be a variety of reasons for that. So to recap, I think in summary, if I were to look at it at a high level, marketing storytelling, it's really solving business problems, driving businesses forward, and really thinking creatively and asking the right questions to get there.
This is why when someone says they are a marketer, it's almost like saying, well, I'm an employee or I'm an entrepreneur. Like it's so broad. Yeah. Because one of the definitions I've used of marketing is the art of letting the right people know that you're in business and what you do.
I love that. Yeah, and I can get up on my soapbox, I could get up on the table and talk about the importance of understanding your audience. A lot of business owners, a lot of marketers, different professionals, they will design marketing campaigns, marketing messaging, having never talked to their prospects or their customers.
Yeah.
And a lot of that messaging is designed in a silo. We do it with the best of intentions. We do it for speed. We do it to get to market quickly. We do it because we feel that we know the business that we started or that we've been so involved in for so many years. But for business owners of any shape or size, I can't emphasize enough the importance of, on a regular basis, having a phone conversation or a coffee meeting with people who could be prospects and people who are customers, because they will tell you how the market's changing. They'll tell you how your products are resonating or not resonating. They'll tell you marketing things like what they're reading, the events they're attending, what resonates with them. I mean, they will feed you all this information. So that's one of the things I do for clients a lot is I interview prospects and I interview customers, whether they're launching a business or they have an existing business and they just want to validate some of their thinking. It's super important.
Well, and I bet you're also the one that they can bounce ideas off of to figure out who is their ideal client.
That too.
And how do they find the wording. One of the things I've asked my clients to do over the years is talk to your current or past client and ask them, why did you hire me?
Right.
What was it about what I'm doing, my marketing, my language, my how I show up? Like, what was it that brought you to the table? Because you're my ideal client and I want more of you.
That's right.
So whatever I did to get you, I want to do more of that. And it's a great way to find out.
Such great validation. And also, if you're brave, you can ask them for honest feedback. You can have a third-party person do it too. Sometimes you get a little bit more honest feedback from customers if you do it that way. Another way to do it if you want more of a personal spin, this is something I use in coaching. There's a program called designingtalent.com, and I'm actually certified as a designing talent coach. And it's coaching based on design thinking. And the gentleman who runs that is Matthias Erhard, brilliant, does a lot of work with Harvard Business School, longtime entrepreneur, works with Microsoft. But the point of this is that one of the things that he starts out his coaching sessions with, which I do too, is prompting his people to go out and ask people that they know and say, when have you seen me at my best? And see what that response is. And it may surprise you, but that's a great confidence builder, and it turns the light on things that you might not have known to be true about yourself, which is kind of cool.
There's what we know we know.
That's right.
There's what we know we don't know.
Yeah.
And then there's all the stuff we don't even know we don't know.
Things we drum up in our head, right, versus the reality.
Yeah.
So.
Good point about getting a third-party person to get some of that feedback.
That's right.
And actually, to take it another step, when I have my clients talk to their past clients about why did you hire me, then ask them, what did you get from working with me? Did you get what you wanted? Not did you get what you wanted, but what did you get? And then whatever that person says, oh, I lost weight, or I feel better, or you sold my house, or whatever, then to be able to ask them, awesome, so glad I was able to provide that for you. Who do you know that would like to join a new networking group?
That's right.
Or have a coach that would help them with that. So it's a great time to ask for introductions too.
Making the ask. It's something we don't do enough as business people. What's my mother always used to say, what's the worst thing somebody can say is no. Okay, they say no, and what does that mean to you? You know, you just move on if that's the case.
So many people have imposter syndrome too,
absolutely.
and the worst thing that can happen for them is that they actually hire them and then they can't perform on what they were hired to do. That's another conversation.
That is, yeah.
So you have all kinds of fun stuff going on. Tell me about your women's group.
Oh my goodness. So the origin of this was, I am a fairly extroverted person, but I don't love traditional networking events. Half the time I feel like I'm asking people questions, they're not asking me questions.
Amen.
I get caught in I end up with the person who just gloms onto my attention, and I'm not really good. I try to be too polite, I'm too nice, I can't extricate myself from the situation. And it also seemed very superficial. People would meet me and say, so what do you do? And it would be very high level. So I started a networking group for female marketing phenoms. And for those folks at home who are in the seacoast of New Hampshire, we meet in Newburyport, Massachusetts, so close to the seacoast, and then also in Boston once a month. And the reason that it's different is it's more of an authentic format. So I keep the group small. It's 15 or fewer women. I drum up awareness through online, through my network. We have a Slack channel of about 80 women right now, so we drum up awareness that way too. And the format is we show up 15 minutes, business card swapping, chatting. I always have a nice meal there. And then we sit down for a structured discussion. Usually if we do it in my friend's office in Boston around a big wooden table that just really facilitates open, fun conversation. We do some quick intros and then I structure the discussion either around a topic that people have told me that they're interested in, or we bring in a subject matter expert. You would be a perfect guest to come in and talk about business development and some of the intersections there. And from there, the conversations just evolve and they're so authentic and people feel open, they feel comfortable. So that's really been the thing. It's been once a month in the burbs, as I call it, in Newburyport and then in Boston. And then the Slack channel has also evolved as a great way for marketers, but really any business professional to ask for advice and also give advice in return. And Cami, people have found jobs through it. People have been coached just through interpersonal interaction, through really difficult career transitions, plus lots of little things. They figured out how to crack a marketing strategy that they couldn't quite work their way through. So it's been really fulfilling for me. It's my way to give back to the marketing community.
You mentioned earlier something about noticing that I alliterate. So my alliteration is we all need resources, relationships, and revenue.
Yes.
That rocks.
Love it.
And that's what you're providing there.
Yes.
So what gave you the vision? Like I've started meetup groups over the years.
Right.
I've spoken at 100 of them, but I've never really held on to one. I think of it as kind of like the sun has a million rays and the sun warms the whole planet, but you need that magnifying glass to catch fire.
Going,
You know?
Yeah.
I never used the magnifying glass.
It's hard.
Yeah, I have attention deficit disorder. So how long have you had your group?
So it's going on, it's about a year. It's been about a year since I started it.
Are you looking to franchise or expand or get other groups or just
Right now,
focus?
I'm doing it for the value that people tells me that it brings them. I don't do it for profit. I also don't do it to grow my business, although I've made some networking connections through it. You mentioned, is there a story behind it? There actually was. I do power yoga, heated yoga. If anybody's done this, it's grueling. We put ourselves through torture, but at the end you feel great.
Yeah.
So I'm lying on the mat at the end, and it's usually a time for structured meditation. You're supposed to close your eyes and not let your thoughts tick through, but just kind of come to a calm place. Well, on one particular day in January, I just couldn't let it go. There was this thought in my head, and it was the New Year's resolution, wanting to do more good. And while this may sound a little bit woo-woo, all of a sudden this idea for this networking group just came to me. If I want to give back to the marketing community, I want to help more people like me evolve their careers, evolve their professional lives, maybe I should give this a shot. So it started small. I think maybe I had 5 really close friends show up to the first one as a favor, right? And then from there, it just spiraled. I think our biggest event was in the low 20s. And I keep them purposely small. I thought about going bigger with it, but for now, it's just been such an interesting format. And there have been so many good relationships and networking and insights that have come from it that for now, I'm just kind of keeping it at what it is and see what happens.
You know, it's such a different synergy, paradigm, space, like whatever words you want to use when it's a big event versus a small event. And as someone who has put together events, sometimes, I'll speak for myself, my ego wants to have 100 people in the room.
It's tempting.
But frankly, a lot of times when there's 6 or 10, there's so much more that's accomplished, no matter what you're doing.
And maybe that was part of it for me, why these other networking events weren't resonating for me as much, because maybe they were too big. And the conversations did feel superficial because you had so many people in the room to meet. But you and I talked before about how we both love interpersonal communication, really connecting with people on a one-on-one level. So I think that's what the group brings. So I'd say for anybody who's out there who's thinking about starting a meetup, focusing small is interesting. Going big, if you have the energy and you have the passion to do that, that can also be very rewarding too. It's just a different way of doing it.
As you were talking about that, it makes me think that for people that are introverted, a big group is actually better because you can hide in a big group.
Yeah.
When it's a small group, when there's 12 of you sitting around a table, Anywhere to hide.
Yeah,
You have to come out. You have to play. So the kind of group you have is much more impactful for anyone that's there.
It's interesting. We do have a few folks who I'd probably classify as introverted, and it's interesting to watch and see how they interact. A lot of them just chill and they hang back and listen, and then when they feel like they have something to contribute, they do, and it's spot on. And I think that's one of the things that I do with business leaders and coaching teams too, is you hit on an interesting point. There are introverts, there are extroverts, there are people who are mixes. I mean, maybe you've taken the Facebook quizzes, right? Or are you one of these combination people? But the point is that whatever business we're in, however we're interacting with people, if you put that hat on of saying, who is the person across the table from me compared to who I am? What do they need from the conversation? What might overwhelm them, or how could I help them bring more of themselves out? That introverted, extroverted paradigm is super fascinating to me. Lots of folks have written about it. Adam Grant, the organizational psychologist, he's written some blog posts and done some podcasts on it. So anyway, that's another tip. I think whatever business you're in, or even if you're just you're not in business, understanding that interpersonal connection and what makes people tick
so much
makes it stronger.
So important. And you know, if you look up the personality styles,
yes,
you know, there's 100 versions of it, from red, blue, yellow, green, to the different dogs, to the different sea urchins and
what kind of
whales.
Muppet are you?
Right, just all that crazy stuff. I was taught the easy way: driver, analytic, expressive, and amiable.
Okay.
The word is exactly what it is, but to your point, really, really beneficial. And surprising how many people don't know it. But then again, it's not like you're taught that in school. There's so many things that should be taught that aren't taught in school.
It's really true. Who clued you into that personality test?
Actually, when I was in real estate, I was coached by a group called the Mike Ferry Organization, and we got into personality styles and scripting and body language and tonality and how to draw someone into the conversation, and NLP, and you know, when you get to the door, don't stand straight in the door, turn to the side so you're not, you know,
Make them feel welcome.
Yeah. So you do coaching, and you one-on-one businesses. Tell us about that. Like, who's a perfect avatar for you?
I love coaching. So it's a couple different things. I love to coach marketing teams. This is something that I really could have used when I was a director of marketing at some big brands. And because when you're in a director role and you've got a marketing team, whether you got 5 people, if you've got 25 people, you're in a bit of a vacuum. You've got a lot of weight on your shoulders. You have to move fast. There's a lot of visibility on you. And you come up with challenges. Maybe you can tell a colleague, but maybe that feels too political, or you can't really trust them. You can't always go to HR. I mean, HR is wonderful and a good resource in most companies, but on most times they're on the side of the business, and they don't really have as much time to help you think through interpersonal challenges, team dynamics, cross-functional communication. So long story shorter, I help marketing teams and leaders think through their management strategies. Do they have the trust of their team? Are their management strategies really resonating? Or are there some things they could tweak? Sometimes you just need an outside perspective who isn't HR, who isn't your boss, to talk through that with. And then I work with individuals. I talk with the individual team members one-on-one to say, how do you feel about being a member of this team? Are you happy to come to work every day? Do you know what your strengths are? Are those strengths being leveraged? Are there things that you want to do? And it's not as much of going back to the manager and telling on the individual, but it's understanding how those individuals as part of a team are thinking and helping the manager get more of a holistic picture. There's professional development baked in there. There's strengths and personality assessments baked in there. And I think the final thing for helping marketing teams is helping them crack through the roadblocks that they're hitting with their strategy and their tactics. Because it's what I do as a consultant too, is I help people build different strategies. I help people execute on those strategies, whether that's how you get leads online, how you do SEO, how you market to your customers, a variety of different marketing tactics. So that's how I help teams. It's just taking a holistic picture at a high level, individual level, and then as a team group level to help them work through their challenges and think differently. I also work with a lot of individuals who maybe they want to go out on their own and become a consultant like me. I help them figure out what is it they're going to sell, how can they position themselves, how are you going to make enough money, can you actually realistically do this with your current budget, So individuals, and then some folks too who are looking to think about their career differently. I'm definitely not a career coach per se. There's definitely a line of business of coaches who are really honed in on that, but it is something else I've helped people do. But I love the coaching aspect of it.
So one of the hats you wear is marketer.
Yes.
So when you go into a situation like this, and I'm asking because I'm looking for some coaching right now,
Okay.
because I'll be in this situation later on today.
Fair enough.
With your marketing hat on, you go into this group of marketers. What kind of resistance do you get? We already know how to market. We're the marketing
absolutely.
team.
Yeah.
How do you diffuse that? How do you help them to let their guard down that you're not there to take their job?
I think we touched on a bit of it before. Is I think you have this skill too of quickly assessing people and giving them the limelight. If they're a little bit sensitive, okay, well, that's great that that's worked really well. Tell me more about that. Why did that work? Because sometimes people feel like they just need a little bit more, they need their strengths to be shown and they want to be heard.
They do. They want to be acknowledged.
Right?
Great
So
point.
I think that's a part of it. It's also looking around the room, not deliberately, but with my third eye, right? And seeing what are all the interpersonal reactions? How are people reacting to each other? How are they reacting to me? How are they reacting to the manager? And quickly getting a litmus test of that and trying to pull people in who haven't been as communicative. I don't know. It's just in the conversation. It's just knowing how to work it creatively, I suppose.
Over the years, I'm really good at reading people.
Yeah.
I'm not always good at diffusing them.
Okay.
Because sometimes
It can be really tough.
I can be very polarizing.
Okay.
So they're either digging me and we're braiding each other's hair and having a sleepover, or they're not having it, So
Right.
so that whole diffusion thing, that's what I was asking. I would love to hear in the last couple minutes of the show a story about a client, where they were, what y'all did, and where they're at now.
Oh, I'm working with a great one right now. For anybody who is in the legal industry, whether you're in a company and you're a corporate counsel, general counsel on the legal team, or you're in a big law firm, there's a company called Legal Innovators. I'll give them a little plug. Their site is legal-innovators.com. They have started a work-based learning program for students who graduate from law school who may not get their top law firm pick. For folks who don't know, the recruitment process in law school and the way that you're evaluated is incredibly competitive. I think law school is about 3 years. After the first year, your first year grades and test scores, that pretty much dictates everything. And then there's a recruitment process that happens with law firms that come on campus in your second year. And if you follow in that recruitment process lockstep, that also dictates things. But let's say you had a death in the family, you had an illness, you don't test very well, or you don't necessarily want to go to a law firm, you want to work in public policy, you may not want to follow that traditional on-campus recruitment process. So it gives people an opportunities that they wouldn't have had otherwise after law school. And helps them crack that competitiveness, because there are lots of really great candidates that are getting excluded from this process. And they have a really great mission in that they look for diverse candidates as well, so people of color, but also people from the LGBTQ community, folks with disabilities, are taking a broad approach to that because that's something that's been neglected. And innovation is really key to what they do too. And so they're hiring and placing these young lawyers with top employers and law firms and corporations after college and giving them training and mentorship along the way. I thought that might resonate with you too. Yeah. So you asked where they were before and where they are now. So they were still are a startup when I met them in the spring. Had a bit of a website, but really didn't have any sort of marketing. And so I built them a website from the ground up. We worked on who the audience is, built them a marketing strategy based on who the audience is, what is the best way to get people's attention. The success story with that is that we're doing lots of great marketing, getting leads in through LinkedIn, but even more importantly, they've gotten some awesome press coverage. So we did a launch for them last year. They were written up by a bunch of publications that are pretty well known for people in the legal industry, Bloomberg Law, American Lawyer, and some others.
What did you do to get them the press media?
I built a relationship with a person who has a lot of experience in the legal industry in PR. And she has coached me through and connected me with some folks and helped me build relationships there. Because I've done PR in the past, but doing PR in specific industries, each industry is a little bit different and it's its own community. So really it was, again, we go back to relationships and the power of networking. It was through my network that I had someone who helped me learn and get up to speed about that industry. And then I think a lot of it is the company's credibility itself and the mission that they're on, and that really sparks with people. They've built a great thing.
Speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, do you ever implement social responsibility into the marketing that you're helping them with? Because that being like my niche is, from what I have heard, right now 50% of the workforce are millennials, and by 2025, 75% of the workforce will be millennials, and 56% of them won't even work for your company if you're not on cause.
Right. Yeah.
So do they implement that sort of thing?
You've hit the nail on the head. Yes, I think we are. That's something that I'm actually talking with a lot of marketers in Boston. There's a community of consultants, and there are a few that are very, very passionate about that, because a lot of brands have corporate social responsibility teams, have divisions. They're doing great things in the community. They have volunteer days, but are they carrying it through in their marketing? When there's National Pride Day and they post a rainbow icon on their Twitter, that's great, but then are they actually giving back to those causes and supporting them financially and with their efforts? There's a woman, if you're interested in that, there's a woman named Katie Martell, who's a friend of mine, and look up her blog, and she's done some interesting blog posts on just that. She's a real advocate for marketers, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk.
Well, there's a lot for us to talk about offline with that, because the way I look at it is you're leveraging purpose in your marketing, purpose leverage marketing. How can you leverage that thing that you're passionate about? So for these law firms that want to attract the LGBTQ type of industry or group to actually implement one of their purposes in their marketing to show that they are supportive of that community, it's going to attract a top talent that wouldn't work for them if they weren't doing that.
And you hit the nail on the head. And it's helping bring those stats up that really haven't changed all that much in 20 years, especially in law. Diversity isn't quite there yet. They've been working on it, but they haven't quite cracked it.
That might be the topic that we do together at your group.
Yeah, I would love that.
So last 60 seconds.
Yes.
What is that one little piece of nuance that you'd like our audience to hear, whether it's about marketing or whether it's about personal growth?
That's a good one. Don't be afraid to go out there and network and meet people. And even if you feel like you're an introvert and you're afraid of it, start small with small conversations, because I can guarantee you, once you really start to build relationships, especially if you're a business owner or you're a professional within a larger company, those relationships are huge. The other thing I'll say, when you're in a company, don't just think networking is for when you're looking for a job. Network within your company. Not necessarily if you're looking to find a role or you're looking for a new job. You'll be amazed at how if you network internally within your organization, helps break down silos, helps you get things done. So networking.
It's interesting you put it that way. Don't just network when you're looking for a job. One of the definitions I've heard is networking is building the relationship before it is needed.
That's a good way of describing it. I think that's a great wrapper to put around it.
Awesome. Thank you for being on, Heidi.
It was a real pleasure. No, I enjoyed this a lot.
Awesome. Well, that's another wrap of the Happiness Jungle TV show. Thank you for watching, and make sure that you find Heidi online. She's got a lot of great material that you want to tap into. Bye, everybody.